The text arrived at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that started like any other day of my carefully constructed life. I was reviewing structural blueprints for the Henderson office complex when my phone buzzed with the message that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I'm in the hospital after a mental health crisis because you won't commit to our future. The doctors say I tried to hurt myself because of your emotional abandonment. This is your fault, Ethan. I might not make it through the night. My hands trembled as I read Vanessa's words 3 times. My wife of 6 years, the woman who shared my bed and my bank account, was apparently dying because of me. The structural engineering calculations on my computer screen blurred as panic flooded my system. I grabbed my jacket and car keys, my mind racing. What commitment was she talking about? We were married, owned a house together, had joint everything. But guilt has a way of making rational thought impossible. And within minutes I was speeding toward Mercy General Hospital with a bouquet of red roses from the gas station and my grandmother's engagement ring burning a hole in my pocket. The ring had been sitting in my desk drawer for months. Vanessa had been dropping hints about renewing our vows, about making a bigger commitment, about proving my love in some grand gesture. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been emotionally distant, too focused on work, too comfortable in our routine. I called her parents from the hospital parking lot, my voice shaking as I explained the situation to Margaret Farr, Vanessa's ice-cold mother, who had never thought I was good enough for her precious daughter. "Oh my God, Ethan," Margaret's voice cracked with what sounded like genuine emotion. "Richard and I will be right there. Don't let her be alone." 20 minutes later, I stood in the hospital lobby with Margaret and Richard Farr, clutching wilted roses and fighting back tears. The admissions clerk, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, typed Vanessa's name into her computer system with practiced efficiency. "I'm sorry, sir, but we have no patient by that name admitted today or any day this week," she said, looking up at me with sympathetic eyes. "Check again," I insisted, my voice rising. "Vanessa Rhodes. She would have been brought in this afternoon for a mental health emergency." The clerk checked 2 more systems, called the psychiatric ward, and even had a supervisor verify the search. Nothing. No Vanessa Rhodes anywhere in the hospital. Richard Farr, normally a man of few words, placed a heavy hand on my shoulder. "Son, something isn't right here." Vanessa wouldn't lie about something like this. But I was already pulling up the Find My Phone app, my fingers moving with desperate efficiency. Vanessa's location appeared on the map, and my blood turned to ice. She wasn't at any hospital. She was at the Grandview Resort, an upscale lakeside retreat about 30 minutes away. "She's not here," I said quietly, showing the phone to her parents. "She's at a resort." Margaret's face went white. "There has to be an explanation. Maybe she was transferred, or maybe she went there after being discharged." We drove to the resort in tense silence, my mind creating increasingly elaborate explanations for why my suicidal wife was at a luxury hotel instead of a hospital bed. Maybe she had checked herself out and gone somewhere peaceful to recover. Maybe she was meeting a therapist there. Maybe. The Grandview Resort lobby was all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, the kind of place where wealthy people went to forget their problems. I approached the front desk with Margaret and Richard flanking me, still clutching those ridiculous roses. "Excuse me," I said to the young man behind the counter. "I'm looking for my wife, Vanessa Rhodes. I believe she's staying here." "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't give out information about our guests." "Please," Margaret interjected, her voice taking on the imperious tone that had intimidated me for 6 years. "This is a family emergency. Her husband received a very disturbing message." The clerk hesitated, then nodded toward the resort's restaurant. "You might try the Lakeview Terrace. It's our main dining area." We walked through the resort's winding corridors, past expensive artwork and perfectly arranged flower displays. The irony of carrying gas station roses through such opulence wasn't lost on me. But I was too focused on finding Vanessa to care about appearances. The Lakeview Terrace was an elegant restaurant with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. Most of the tables were empty in the late afternoon lull, making it easy to spot the couple in the corner booth. Vanessa was there, all right, but she wasn't alone, and she certainly didn't look like someone who had recently attempted suicide. She was leaning across the table, her lips pressed against those of Brent Summers, her boss at the law firm where she worked as a paralegal. I stood frozen for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds, watching my wife's tongue explore the mouth of another man. She was wearing the red dress I had bought her for our anniversary, the one she claimed was too fancy for anywhere we ever went. "Vanessa!" The word came out of my mouth like a gunshot. She jerked away from Brent so quickly she knocked over her wine glass, sending Chardonnay cascading across their table. Her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, fear, guilt, and finally, calculated innocence. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" And Mom, Dad, oh my God, why are you all here? I held up the roses, feeling like the world's biggest fool. "You texted me. You said you were in the hospital. You said you tried to hurt yourself because I wouldn't commit to our future." Vanessa's eyes darted between me, her parents, and Brent, who was dabbing wine off his expensive suit with a cloth napkin. "I can explain everything. This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "Because it looks like you're making out with your boss while your husband rushes to the hospital with roses and an engagement ring because he thinks you're dying." Richard Farr stepped forward, his face red with rage. "Vanessa Marie Farr, what the hell is going on here?" "It's not what you think, Daddy. Brent is just an old friend, and I was upset about Ethan and me, so I called him for advice, and—" "Bullshit," Richard interrupted, using language I had never heard from the distinguished businessman. "I've seen old friends giving advice, and that wasn't it." Brent finally found his voice, standing up and extending his hand toward me with the kind of smarmy confidence that made me want to punch him in his perfectly capped teeth. "Ethan, right? I'm Brent Summers. I think there's been a misunderstanding here." I looked at his outstretched hand, then at the roses in my arms, then at my wife's guilty face. "The only misunderstanding is that I thought my wife was a decent human being." Margaret Farr, who had been silent throughout this exchange, finally spoke. "Vanessa, how could you do this to your marriage? How could you lie about being in the hospital? Do you have any idea what you've put this man through?" "I didn't lie exactly," Vanessa stammered. "I was emotionally in crisis, and I thought maybe if Ethan realized how serious our problems were—" "You made me think you were suicidal," I shouted, causing other diners to turn and stare. "You made me think I was responsible for you trying to kill yourself." "I never said I was suicidal," she protested weakly. I pulled out my phone and read her text aloud, my voice carrying across the restaurant. "I might not make it through the night." "What exactly did you think I would interpret that as?" Richard Farr walked over to his daughter and spoke in a voice cold enough to freeze the lake outside. "You are no longer my daughter. And Ethan, if you want it, there's a position at my company. Senior structural engineer, twice what you're making now. You deserve better than this." He turned back to Vanessa. "Don't bother coming to the house. Your mother and I are done with your drama and your lies." As her parents walked away, Vanessa tried to follow them, but Richard held up a hand. "We have nothing more to say to you." I stood there for another moment, looking at my wife and her lover, still holding those damn roses. Finally, I walked over to their table and dropped the bouquet right into the puddle of spilled wine. "If you ever contact me again," I said quietly, "it better be through a lawyer." As I walked away, I heard Brent say, "Well, that was awkward. If roses had thorns," I thought, "I'd be covered in blood." The gossip mill in our small city worked with the efficiency of a German automobile factory. By Thursday morning, exactly 36 hours after the resort incident, my phone was buzzing with messages from friends, coworkers, and people I barely knew. "Dude, heard about Vanessa and her boss. Sorry, man," Jake from the gym. "Is it true she faked being in the hospital?" "That's psycho-level manipulation," my neighbor Carol. "Brent's been bragging about nailing a married woman at the country club. Didn't know it was your wife until someone told me." "What a piece of shit," my college buddy Mike. I was sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee that tasted like regret, and reading these messages when my best friend Samir knocked on my door. Sam had been my roommate in college and was now the best yacht mechanic in the tri-state area. He was also the only person who could make me laugh when my world was falling apart. "Ethan, my friend," he said, letting himself in with the spare key I had given him years ago. "You look like someone who has been hit by a truck full of emotional baggage." "Close," I replied. "Hit by a truck full of lies driven by my cheating wife." Sam poured himself a cup of coffee and sat across from me at the kitchen table. "So it's true then. She was playing hide the salami with her boss while pretending to be suicidal." "That's a disgusting way to put it, but yes, essentially accurate." "And her parents disowned her in public?" "Richard offered me a job. Margaret looked like she wanted to crawl into a hole and die from embarrassment." Sam nodded thoughtfully. "You know what this means, don't you? That my marriage is over and I'm about to become the subject of every divorce horror story in the city?" No, my friend. It means you have the moral high ground, public sympathy, and a better job offer. This is not a disaster. This is an opportunity for revenge. I had been so focused on my own humiliation that I hadn't considered the strategic advantages of my position. Vanessa had overplayed her hand spectacularly, and now she was the villain in everyone's story. My phone rang. Richard Farr. Ethan, I hope you're considering my offer. I meant what I said at the restaurant. Mr. Farr, I appreciate the gesture, but I don't want you to feel obligated. Son, I'm not offering you a job out of pity. I'm offering it because you're a damn good engineer, and because I want to make sure you land on your feet while my daughter crashes and burns. She made her choice. Now she can live with the consequences. What kind of work would I be doing? Commercial development projects, high-end stuff, hotels, office complexes, luxury condos. The kind of work that would put you in direct competition with firms like Summers and Associates, Brent's firm. The irony was delicious. I accept, I said. Good. Start Monday. And Ethan, don't go easy on them just because they're the competition. Business is business. After hanging up, I looked at Sam, who was grinning like a man who had just won the lottery. What are you smiling about? You just got promoted to a position where you can professionally destroy your wife's lover. This is better than cable television. That afternoon, I drove to the Riverside Yacht Club, where Brent was a member. I wasn't a member myself, but Sam had done enough work there that he could get me in as his guest. My plan was simple: observe and gather information. Know your enemy before you strike. The yacht club was exactly what you'd expect. White people in expensive clothes drinking overpriced alcohol while complaining about their taxes. I found Brent on the deck, holding court with a group of middle-aged men who looked like they had never worked a day in their lives. The key to success with women, Brent was saying, is making them feel like they need you more than you need them. Take this married woman I'm seeing. I've got her so twisted up, she'll do anything to keep me interested. One of his companions, a fat man with a ridiculous mustache, laughed. Married women are the best. All the fun, none of the commitment. Exactly, and this one is particularly entertaining. She actually faked a suicide attempt to manipulate her husband. Can you imagine being married to someone that crazy? I felt my hands clench into fists, but I forced myself to stay calm and keep listening. What's her husband like? Another man asked. Total loser, some kind of engineer. Probably makes half what I make and drives a Honda. She's way out of his league. Are you going to steal her away? Brent laughed, the sound grating against my nerves like fingernails on a chalkboard. Why would I want damaged goods? I'm just having fun until something better comes along. She's convenient, that's all. I had heard enough. I walked over to their table, my heart pounding but my voice steady. Excuse me, gentlemen. Brent, right? I'm Ethan Rhodes. I believe you know my wife, Vanessa. The color drained from Brent's face, but he tried to maintain his composure. Ethan, what a surprise. What brings you to the yacht club? I'm here with my friend Sam. He's working on the Henderson's boat, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation about married women and manipulation and convenience. The other men at the table looked uncomfortable, sensing the tension but not understanding the context. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Brent said, standing up. Oh, I understand perfectly. You think my wife is convenient, damaged goods that you're using for entertainment until something better comes along? Did I get that right? Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. My voice was getting louder, and other people on the deck were starting to pay attention. You helped my wife fake a mental health crisis to manipulate me, then bragged about it to your friends like it was some kind of conquest. That's not what happened, Brent protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Really? Because I have a pretty good memory, and I just heard you describe her as crazy and entertaining and convenient. Those were your exact words. By now, a small crowd had gathered. The yacht club was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, and a public confrontation was better than reality television. Gentlemen, I said, addressing Brent's companions, let me tell you about the kind of man you've been drinking with. This is someone who pursues married women, encourages them to lie to their husbands, and then mocks those women behind their backs. Is that the kind of person you want representing your business interests? One of the men, apparently a client of Brent's firm, looked genuinely disturbed. Brent, is this true? It's complicated, Brent stammered. It's really not, I replied. It's actually very simple. He's a predator who takes advantage of unhappy women and then brags about it. You need to leave, Brent said, trying to regain control of the situation. Actually, I think you need to leave. This is a family establishment, and your behavior is inappropriate for a place that prides itself on respectability. I turned to walk away, then stopped and looked back at him. Oh, and Brent, you might want to check your car before you drive home. I hadn't actually done anything to his car yet, but the threat was enough to make him nervous. As I walked away, I could hear the other men peppering him with questions about his relationship with my wife. Sam was waiting for me by the marina, tools in hand and a huge grin on his face. How did it go? Better than expected. I think Mr. Summers is about to find out that actions have consequences. And the car? Not yet, but soon. As we walked toward the parking lot, I spotted Brent's silver Range Rover in the members section. It was an expensive vehicle, the kind of status symbol that men like Brent used to compensate for their lack of character. I looked around to make sure no one was watching, then pulled out my keys and carved the word cheater into the driver's side door. It wasn't mature, but it felt incredibly satisfying. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your wife is about to be fired for violating the firm's morality clause. Thought you should know, a friend. I smiled as I got into my Honda. If you're going to set the world on fire, I thought, make sure you're standing upwind. By Friday afternoon, the gossip network had evolved into something resembling a military intelligence operation. I was receiving regular updates about Vanessa and Brent's activities from sources I didn't even know I had. Erica Martinez, Vanessa's best friend and biggest enabler, had apparently decided that loyalty had its limits. She called me around lunchtime, her voice dripping with the kind of fake concern that meant she had information to sell. Ethan, honey, I am so sorry about everything that's happened. I had no idea Vanessa was capable of something like this. Really, Erica? You had no idea that your best friend was having an affair? Well, I knew she was unhappy in your marriage, but I never thought she would actually cheat. And the hospital thing? That's just psychotic. What do you want, Erica? I want to help you. Vanessa has been saying terrible things about you, trying to make herself look like the victim. Someone needs to set the record straight. What kind of terrible things? She's telling people that you were emotionally abusive, that you threatened her, that you're stalking her now. She's trying to flip the script and make herself look sympathetic. My blood pressure spiked. Not only had Vanessa cheated and lied, now she was trying to destroy my reputation with false accusations. There's more, Erica continued. She's not just sleeping with Brent. There's another guy from the law firm, Marcus Webb. She's been playing them against each other. Marcus Webb, the senior partner? The very same. Married, 3 kids, pillar of the community, Marcus Webb. Vanessa's been very busy. This was getting better and better. If I could expose Vanessa's pattern of behavior, it would destroy any credibility she might have in trying to paint me as the villain. Why are you telling me this, Erica? Because Vanessa threw me under the bus. She told Brent that I knew about their affair from the beginning, and that I encouraged it. Now Brent's wife is threatening to sue me for enabling the affair. I'm done protecting someone who won't protect me. What do you need from me? Nothing. I just want you to know the truth. And if anyone asks, I'll tell them exactly what kind of person Vanessa really is. After hanging up with Erica, I sat in my new office at Far Development, staring out the window at the city skyline. My new job was everything Richard had promised. Challenging projects, excellent pay, and the kind of professional respect I had never received at my old firm. More importantly, it put me in a position to compete directly with Summers and Associates for major contracts. Richard had made it clear that he expected me to be aggressive in pursuing business, especially business that might otherwise go to Brent's firm. My first opportunity came sooner than expected. The city was accepting bids for a new convention center, a project worth millions of dollars, and exactly the kind of high-profile work that would establish my reputation in my new role. I spent the weekend preparing a proposal that would blow Summers and Associates out of the water. I had inside knowledge of their typical approach, thanks to Vanessa's pillow talk over the years, and I used every advantage I had. Monday morning, I was in my office early when my assistant knocked on my door. Mr. Rhodes, there's a Marcus Webb here to see you. He says it's urgent. Marcus Webb was a distinguished man in his 50s, with gray hair and the kind of expensive suit that screamed old money. He also looked like someone who hadn't slept in several days. Mr. Rhodes, thank you for seeing me without an appointment. I believe we have a mutual problem. Do we? Vanessa Rhodes, your wife, my mistake. I gestured for him to sit down. What can I do for you, Mr. Webb? I understand that your wife has been spreading rumors about your marriage, trying to make herself look like a victim. She's been doing the same thing about our association. Association? I made a terrible error in judgment. Vanessa was persuasive, and I was going through a difficult time in my marriage. But now she's threatening to expose our relationship unless I help her in her divorce proceedings. She's blackmailing you? Essentially, yes. She wants me to testify that you were abusive, that you threatened her, that she was afraid for her safety. In exchange, she'll keep our affair quiet. I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. Vanessa wasn't just cheating. She was running a sophisticated manipulation campaign designed to destroy me while protecting herself. What do you want from me, Mr. Webb? I want to come clean before she can use me as a weapon against you. I'm prepared to admit to my affair with her, to testify about her manipulative behavior, and to face the consequences of my actions. That's very noble of you, but it will destroy your career and your marriage. My marriage is already over. My wife hired a private investigator last week, and my career, well, I'd rather go down with some dignity than be destroyed by a blackmailer. We talked for another hour, and by the time Marcus left my office, I had a much clearer picture of what I was dealing with. Vanessa wasn't just an unfaithful wife, she was a predator who used sex and manipulation to control men and get what she wanted. That afternoon, I decided to do some reconnaissance of my own. I drove to the law firm where Vanessa worked, parking across the street with a clear view of the employee parking lot. I didn't have to wait long. Vanessa emerged from the building at 5:30, walking quickly toward her car with her head down. She looked terrible. Her hair was messy, her clothes wrinkled, and she had the hunted look of someone who knew the walls were closing in. She drove straight to a downtown bar called Murphy's, the kind of place where people went to drink away their problems. I followed at a distance, parking down the street and walking back to the bar. Through the window, I could see her sitting at the bar, already working on what looked like her second or third drink. She was talking to the bartender, gesturing wildly with her hands in the way she did when she was upset. I pulled out my phone and started recording video through the window. It wasn't admissible in court, but it would be useful for documenting her behavior patterns. As I watched, Brent Summers walked into the bar and sat down next to her. Their conversation looked heated, with both of them gesturing angrily. At one point, Vanessa threw her drink in his face, causing other patrons to stare and the bartender to intervene. Brent stormed out of the bar, and Vanessa ordered another drink. She was clearly falling apart, and it was only a matter of time before she made a mistake that would give me the ammunition I needed. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard Farr. Heard about the convention center bid. Good work. Also heard that Summers and Associates is having some internal problems. Couldn't happen to a nicer firm. I smiled as I walked back to my car. The long game was just beginning, and I was playing chess while my opponents were playing checkers. If roses had thorns, I thought, everyone was about to find out just how sharp they could be. The convention center bid results were announced on a Wednesday morning that felt like Christmas and revenge rolled into one perfect package. I was in Richard Farr's office when his assistant brought in the official notification. "Congratulations, Ethan," Richard said, shaking my hand with genuine pride. "You just landed the biggest contract in the city's history, and you beat Summers and Associates by a margin that can only be described as humiliating." The contract was worth $12 million and would establish Farr Development as the premier commercial construction firm in the region. More importantly, it was a project that Brent's firm had been counting on to recover from some recent financial difficulties. "How are they taking the news?" I asked. "About as well as you'd expect." I heard Brent threw a chair through his office window when he found out. The man has serious anger management issues. My phone rang. Detective Ray Harlan from the city police. "Mr. Rhodes, I need to speak with you about your wife. Can you come down to the station?" 20 minutes later, I was sitting in an interview room that smelled like stale coffee and broken dreams. Detective Harlan was a thin man in his 40s, with tired eyes and the kind of mustache that had been out of style for decades. "Mr. Rhodes, your wife filed a complaint against you yesterday. She claims you've been stalking her, harassing her at work, and threatening her safety." "That's interesting, considering I haven't spoken to her since I found her cheating at the Grandview Resort. She says you've been following her, taking pictures, and that you vandalized her boyfriend's car." "I did key his car," I admitted, "but I haven't been stalking anyone. I've been too busy with my new job to worry about what my cheating wife is doing with her spare time. Detective Harlan opened a file and pulled out several photographs. She provided these pictures as evidence of your stalking behavior. The photos showed me at various locations around the city: the yacht club, Murphy's bar, the law firm parking lot. They had been taken from a distance with a telephoto lens, and they definitely made me look like someone conducting surveillance. Detective, these photos prove that someone was stalking someone, but it wasn't me stalking her. Someone was following me and taking pictures. The question is who? That's an interesting theory. Do you have any evidence to support it? I pulled out my phone and showed him the video I had taken of Vanessa and Brent at Murphy's bar. I took this last week, but look at the timestamp and compare it to the timestamp on her photos. She has pictures of me at locations I visited after I saw her at the bar. Someone was following me, not the other way around. Detective Harlan studied the photos in my video for several minutes. This is unusual. Why would someone follow you and then provide the evidence to your wife? Because my wife is running a con game, and she needed evidence to support her victim narrative. I'm betting if you check her phone records, you'll find she's been in contact with a private investigator. We'll look into it. In the meantime, I need you to stay away from your wife and her associates. Can you do that? Gladly. I have better things to do with my time. As I left the police station, my phone was buzzing with messages. The first was from Erica. Vanessa hired a PI to follow you and create fake stalking evidence. She's completely lost her mind. The second was from Marcus Webb. Emergency meeting, my office, 1 hour. I drove to Webb's law firm, wondering what new crisis had developed. Marcus looked even worse than he had the week before. Unshaven, disheveled, and clearly operating on very little sleep. She's escalating, he said without preamble. Vanessa came to my office this morning with a new demand. She wants $50,000, or she'll release photos of us together to my wife and the State Bar Association. Photos? Apparently she's been documenting our encounters. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, and yes, photographs. She's been planning this for months. I sat down heavily in the chair across from his desk. Marcus, she's doing the same thing to me. False stalking charges, fake evidence, character assassination. This isn't about divorce or hurt feelings. This is a coordinated attack designed to destroy anyone who threatens her. What do? We fight back, but we do it smart, and we do it legal. That afternoon, I called a meeting with Richard Farr and the best attorney in the city, Patricia Sullivan. Patricia was a shark in a power suit, the kind of lawyer who ate people like Vanessa for breakfast. Gentlemen, Patricia said after I had explained the situation, what we have here is a classic case of criminal conspiracy. Your wife isn't just committing adultery, she's engaged in extortion, filing false police reports, and manufacturing evidence. She's going to prison. What's our next move? Richard asked. We set a trap. We give her enough rope to hang herself, and we document everything. Ethan, I need you to agree to meet with her, wear a wire, let her make her demands, and get it all on tape. Is that legal? Perfectly legal. You're allowed to record conversations with people who are trying to extort you. 2 days later, Vanessa called me for the first time since the resort incident. Her voice was different, harder, more calculating than the woman I had married. Ethan, we need to talk. I think we can work this out without lawyers getting involved. I'm listening. Meet me at the Riverside Diner tomorrow at noon. Come alone. The Riverside Diner was a public place, which made it perfect for our purposes. I arrived early, wearing a wire provided by Patricia's investigator, and chose a booth in the back where our conversation wouldn't be overheard by other customers. Vanessa arrived 15 minutes late, looking like she had spent the morning in a beauty salon. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, and she was wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people made in a week. You look good, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. The new job must be treating you well. What do you want, Vanessa? I want us to be civilized about this divorce. We both made mistakes, and there's no reason we can't part as friends. Friends don't fake suicide attempts to manipulate each other. Her mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the cold calculation underneath. I was in crisis, Ethan. I needed to know that you cared about me, that our marriage meant something to you. Our marriage meant so much to you that you were sleeping with 2 other men. That's not fair. You had emotionally abandoned me long before I found comfort with someone else. I leaned forward, making sure the wire would pick up every word clearly. Someone else. Try 2 someone elses. Brent Summers and Marcus Webb, at the same time. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because Marcus came to see me last week. He told me about your little blackmail scheme. $50,000, or you release photos and destroy his career. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw the real person behind the mask. Marcus has a big mouth. So it's true, you've been blackmailing him. I prefer to think of it as ensuring my financial security during this difficult transition. And what about me? What's my price for keeping quiet about your affairs? She smiled, and it was like looking at a snake. For you, my dear husband, the price is much higher. I want half of everything you own, plus alimony, plus a public statement that our marriage ended due to your emotional abuse. And if I refuse, then the police will receive additional evidence of your stalking behavior. My friends at the private investigation firm are very creative when it comes to documenting harassment. You mean the fake evidence you've been manufacturing? I mean the very real evidence of your obsessive behavior, following me, taking pictures, vandalizing property, threatening my safety. It's all documented, Ethan. A jury will see you as a dangerous man who couldn't accept that his wife had moved on. I sat back in the booth, letting her words sink in. She had just confessed to extortion, conspiracy, and manufacturing false evidence, all while wearing a wire that would send her to prison. That's quite an offer, Vanessa. Let me think about it. Don't think too long. My patience has limits. She stood up to leave, then turned back to me with one final threat. Oh, and Ethan, if anything happens to interfere with my plans, I have insurance. Photos, videos, documents, enough to destroy you and everyone who's been helping you, including your new boss and his precious reputation. After she left, I sat in the diner for another 20 minutes, making sure she was really gone before I called Patricia Sullivan. Did you get all that? I asked. Every word. She just handed us enough evidence to put her away for 5 to 10 years. Extortion, conspiracy, filing false police reports, and threatening a witness. Your wife is about to learn a very expensive lesson about the consequences of her actions. That evening, I was in my apartment, finally feeling like I could see the light at